Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. President Barack Obama's inauguration was held on the U.S. Capitol in front of a crowd of approximately 800,000. The president took his oath of office and made his inauguration address. He signed official documents and attended the inauguration luncheon at the Capitol before reviewing troops and taking part in the inaugural parade down Pennsylvania Avenue to the White House.
Earlier in the day,
President Obama's second-term inauguration made for a lively follow-up to his historic first inauguration, even though the crowds did not swell to the 1.8 million that attended in 2008. Authorities estimate the crowd grew to approximately 800,000 people. Many stayed on after the swearing-in ceremony and speeches to attend lavish balls that went on well into the early hours. Today, cleanup crews were on hand on a virtually empty National Mall, breaking down equipment. While the main event happened on Monday, the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area, commonly known as the DMV, kicked off inauguration weekend with a slew of events to celebrate the president's second inauguration. One of the early events was the VI Inaugural Ball, and News 2 was there. Our D.C. correspondent, Romaine, reports.
While it may have been freezing outside by Virgin Islands standards Saturday night in Virginia, inside the Crowne Plaza Hotel in Arlington, the action was hot. The Virgin Islands Association Ball, hosted by the Virgin Islands Association of Washington, D.C., was a hot ticket in the DMV. President Barack Obama's second swearing-in ceremony is just 2 days away. Meanwhile, across the Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia area, the celebration has already begun. On Saturday, hundreds came out to Arlington, Virginia to celebrate the president's inauguration VI style. The sold-out ball saw Virgin Islanders from far and wide, and even folks who traveled from the VI to see the president swear in and celebrate his victory with old and new friends. Dignitaries from almost all Virgin Islands branches of government were in attendance to show their support for President Obama and the Virgin Islands Association of Washington, D.C.
I'm very excited. You know, a lot of people are saying, well, it's the second one. Maybe people won't be as excited or enthusiastic about it. But this is a very hard fought for victory.
We need him so desperately, especially here in the Virgin Islands. We need his support to help the little people like us to really do great things on our islands.
They have done a lot for America and made a difference in terms of integrity and character.
He represents a lot of what we believe leaders should be, you know, compassionate, someone who is not so much about themselves, but about the people in a role like his, well, in his case, a very, an executive public servant, if I may.
The Virgin Islands Association of Washington, D.C. began years ago by Virgin Islanders longing for a little piece of home here in the DMV area.
I would have to go back to 1977 when I first moved up here. My first meal at Howard University was sandwich and potato chips. And I said, well, where's the dinner? They said, that was dinner. So what that caused me to do was to go out there and look for individuals from the Virgin Islands.
Since the old days back at Howard University, the association has grown and now gives back to students back home in the form of numerous scholarships and even financial support in times of hardship for the territory.
This is to celebrate the re-election of President Obama, but also as a means of us raising funds for our scholarship. All the donations or all the funds that go towards this goes through 3 scholarships that we give out every year to college students, or college-bound students from the Virgin Islands.
And with the continued support of Virgin Islanders stateside, it's safe to say that Virgin Islanders back at home will continue to benefit from the work of the VI Association of Washington, D.C. From Arlington, Virginia, Romaine, News 2.
And the party did not end after the inauguration festivities. Folks in the DMV area got dressed to the nines for the numerous inaugural balls held around Washington, D.C. Our cameras got into one of the more exclusive events, the Victory Inaugural Ball. While the Obamas, who were scheduled to make a cameo at the ball, were no shows, the stars were still out. The sold-out event saw the likes of Music Soul Child, Maze, and Frankie Beverly take the stage to perform. The show was closed out by none other than R&B great Maxwell. Meanwhile, back here in the territory, News 2 hit the streets and got reactions about President Barack Obama's inaugural ceremonies.
I consider it a blessing. I've lived to see this day
And more or less, I would like our young men in our community, and I hope they looked at it and they can see exactly there's always hope. It doesn't matter your background, where you came from, it's where you want to go in life, and this could be a great lesson, not only to the young men, but to all of us as a nation.
Well, what was so wonderful about this is how he set what I see at his agenda for the next 4 years. Knowing what he dealt with in the past 4 with a party of no, he came out and this is it, this is where I want to go, this is where the people who have elected me want me to go. And I think he set it out real strong in knowing.
Students at the 21st Century Learning Center had the chance to get a first-hand glance at Barack Obama's inaugural experience with a mock swearing-in ceremony. Spearheaded by Project Hope, Inc., the event was created to give students a chance to observe and take part in each step of the swearing-in ceremonies.
Today, we had President Obama being sworn in. As a special treat for the children, at the end of the ceremony, they were able to go in a limousine and tour the eastern part of the island. We also had the Chief Justice and also our commentator, Ms. Lola Richards, who took the trip with them. And we try our best to make sure that they remember the day, not just a holiday for the beach, a holiday for Lyman, but a day where we're going to have an educational experience and learning something, especially about historical figures.
And President Obama was back at work today. The president's planning to tackle several major issues in the second term, but Republicans are already pushing back. Randall Pinkston reports from Washington.
President Obama started his day at church. He attended the inaugural National Prayer Service, a tradition that dates back to the days of George Washington. After the event, he dives into the work of his second term. The president outlined an ambitious agenda during his inaugural address.
Now, more than ever, we must do these things together as one nation and one people.
He plans to tackle some of the most contentious issues of the day, including gun control, climate change, and immigration.
Comprehensive immigration reform, like so many of the issues that he talked about yesterday, is something that we can unite behind, that we can come together to act on.
Republicans on Capitol Hill are planning to challenge much of the president's second-term agenda. They are agreeing with one of the president's demands, but there's a catch. Tomorrow, House Republicans are expected to pass legislation that allows the government to borrow money to pay its bills for the next few months.
The fact that the House Republicans have made this decision is certainly something that we welcome.
But the debt limit deal demands Democrats in the Senate do something they haven't done in 4 years, pass a budget.
The last time the Senate has passed a budget, the iPad wasn't even invented yet.
Crews outside the Capitol are cleaning up from the swearing-in ceremony, where politics took a back seat. But politics will be front and center with lawmakers back at work. Randall Pinkston, News 2.
In other news, following the resignation of former police commissioner Henry White Jr., Government House has released who will take his place. And it's someone familiar with how things operate here in the territory. Who is it? News 2's Erica Bivens has the latest. Erica?
Well, Sandy, it wasn't a long retirement for Rodney Carrard, the former St. Thomas St. John police chief. In fact, just 9 months after he retired, he was called back into the department, but this time it's to serve as the VIPD assistant commissioner as well as acting police commissioner. The news was released Tuesday in a Government House statement where it says, Governor John P. DeYoung Jr. has appointed Carrard to the new position, effective immediately. DeYoung stated, I am extremely pleased at Rodney's decision to return from retirement to government service, and I look forward to his working with me as we transform the leadership of the Virgin Islands Police Department to meet our daily challenges in law enforcement. The change-up in leadership was made after former Police Commissioner Henry White Jr. handed in his resignation last Tuesday. White served as acting police commissioner from November 2011 until he was sworn in as commissioner in March 2012. His resignation date is effective February 15th. Now, although there has been a change in leadership, Carrard is no stranger to the challenges in the territory with regards to police work. Carrard served as police chief for almost 5 years, and before that was a member of the high-intensity drug trafficking area task force for almost 9 years. But his background in the VIPD actually dates back to 1987. Government House would not comment further than the release issued. However, Currard will have to pick up where White left off to continue efforts to meet the VIPD's consent decree, which was entered into 4 years ago as a way to stop police from using excessive force, as well as to investigate and discipline officers and monitor their actions. So far, the police department has missed all deadlines in the original document, but has been granted an extension to meet all provisions by the end of October. Sandy?
Thanks for that, Erica. Currard will be the fourth commissioner in office since the consent decree was entered into 4 years ago. News 2 will continue to follow up on how Currard plans to address the consent decree. Well, detectives on St. John have identified human skeletal remains found in August 2012 to be the remains of missing St. John resident Sierra Samantha James. James had been missing since October 11, 2011, when family members reported her missing 2 days later. The skeletal remains were discovered on August 1st at Estate Adrian on St. John. Police then sent a DNA sample to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who returned the results, confirming it belonged to James. Police Chief Darren Foy and Deputy Police Chief Maria Cologne Jones have extended their condolences to the family of Sierra James. Police on St. Thomas are investigating a fatal shooting that occurred on Sunday, January 20th, where police discovered the body of Lucas Reed Jr. in the driver's seat of his Honda Civic near the area known as Jai Yard in Hospital Ground around 10:15 a.m. Reed was found with multiple gunshot wounds to his body. Reed's car had collided into a wall near the Moravian Cemetery, and the vehicle also sustained several bullet holes. Police are asking anyone with information on this crime to call 1-800-222-TIPS. Also, police say less than 12 hours later, around 8 p.m., there was a second homicide victim. 41-year-old Sonny Rodriguez was found behind the adult education building on Garden Street after a report was called in about shots fired in the area. Rodriguez was discovered with multiple gunshot wounds to his body and was pronounced dead at the scene. Police received a confidential tip and then arrested 22-year-old Geraldi Jean Simon and charged him with the murder. John Simon was found at the Blyden Marine Terminal, where he already purchased the ticket and was on board the 8:45 a.m. ferry bound for the BVI. He was charged with first-degree murder, among other charges, and denied bail.
The Virgin Islands Police Department and the people of the Virgin Islands are concerned with the senseless acts of violence involving firearms. And the Virgin Islands Police Department will continue to fight crime and apprehend these criminals swiftly as possible.
Meanwhile, on Friday, police on St. Thomas made several arrests on various charges. Chris Prentice, aged 32, was charged with robbery, third degree, for stealing purses from two women, one walking on Comprince's Gata on Thursday, the other near Double Play Bar on Friday. Prentice was placed on a $75,000 bail for each charge and remanded to the Bureau of Corrections. Also Friday, John Lamontagne, age 62, was charged with grand larceny after taking a woman's purse at Banco Popular in Sugar Estate. His bail was set at $35,000 and he was remanded to custody. Later that evening, Franklin Morton, age 45, was arrested and charged with a DUI after failing a field sobriety test. Keeping our eye on the economy, the United Nations is predicting that global unemployment will continue to rise. The UN reports the number of people without work rose 4 million last year to 197 million overall. Unemployment is expected to rise by more than 5 million people this year and another 3 million in 2014. This is the New York Stock Exchange with Scotiabank Stock Market Watch. Everything up, the Dow 62, NASDAQ 0.5, S&P 6. Coming up on News 2, so does the VI promote bizarre foods? Find out why crews from the popular Travel Channel show is on St. Croix. Well, on Saturday, the Environmental Association of St. Thomas St. John and the VI Conservation Society teamed up to celebrate the National Day of Service. After collecting over 60 bags of cans at Magens Bay, the volunteers shuttled them to the recycling center in Subbase. My Brother's Workshop helped with their truck. A tip jar is currently located at the Magens Bay concession to help for future trips. The proceeds from the cans goes towards their recycling fund to provide free bins to anyone interested in recycling. Well, it's been a finger-licking week for some visitors, discovering tasty yet bizarre foods on the big island of St. Croix. Of course, we're talking about Andrew Zimmern from the Travel Channel's Bizarre Foods America, who's currently filming an episode of the show right on St. Croix. News 2's Janisha Jan brings us more.
The experience of some of St. Croix's most tasty cuisine will be shared on national television, as the Travel Channel's very own Andrew Zimmern has brought Bizarre Foods America to St. Croix.
We're really happy to be able to welcome the Bizarre Foods production here on the island of St. Croix. We have Andrew Zimmern, who is famous for traveling the world and experiencing wonderful delicacies that's kind of off the beaten path. The Department of Tourism, we've been working on this for about 3 years, and we're glad that today we're able to offer this opportunity for him to be here on the island.
TV2 caught up with Andrew and the Bizarre Foods crew as they stopped in at Annalee Bay for the Senapal Cattle Experience, just one of the many tasty yet cultural experiences the crew has had on island.
St. Croix has a culture here. It has an agrarian economy. It has, you know, a tourism economy. It has a restaurant life. It has a street food life. It just blew my mind. Johnny cakes that were as light as feathers. You know, pâtés, beef and chicken and salt fish that were ethereal. I mean, real cooking goes on in those homes. When I'm in this type of environment, the fanciest I want to get is going to the chicken shack and getting some of that great chicken. The fanciest that I want to get is going to Joe's Can Cook. A great stand, the goat water there on Centerline Road is extraordinary. I mean, that's the kind of thing that really interests me.
And while there are many bizarre foods in the world, some like Andrew say that there is something special about St. Croix that appeals to more than just the taste buds, like the story and culture behind the foods.
What's important to us is to tell the best stories about culture through food that we can find. I don't care if I have to do 50 shows here in St. Croix and none in other states. We go where the best stories are.
Part of what we do is try to bring great stories, people who can tell great stories about the Virgin Islands here, and also have folks within our community work on those stories as well. So I'm excited for St. Croix. I can't wait to see some of the things that they're going to be eating, looking on the TV and see, oh, they're having some of the conch stew and stuff like that, but also give an opportunity for the world to see how great we are.
Food's great, the weather's beautiful, but the people are what make this island.
Janisha Jan, News 2.
Now, the Bizarre Food St. Croix episodes are slated to air on the Travel Channel around spring of this year. For more information on St. Croix adventures from host Andrew Zimmern, you can visit www.andrewzimmern.com. We're prepared to be bearded. That was the rallying cry for the 5th annual Beard and Mustache Contest held on the Christiansted Boardwalk Saturday afternoon. Sponsored by the Crew de Croix, nearly 20 contestants got bearded up and paraded up and down the Christiansted Boardwalk. Young, old, men and women, real or artificial. If you had facial hair, you were in. The judging was especially detailed this year with a lot of hands-on judging. A great time was had by everyone, with Ken Ulrich taking first place in the full beard category.
They said it was a Hollywood theme, and I couldn't think of anything other than the masks, you know, or crying mask, or laughing mask. So then I thought of man and woman. So I went with both. It's for fun. This is what it's for. This is why we come here. This is why we enjoy ourselves. We have a good time, support the island.
And congratulations to the winner. Stick around. Your News2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.